Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a great topic for those of you in the real estate industry in regards to what I think is one of the most important things we can do, and that's helping our clients manage their emotions throughout the home buying, home selling process. Obviously, this is one of the largest transactions, purchases that they'll ever go through. We obviously suggest, recommend good planning and good education to our clients during and before that process, I should say. But inevitably, it gets to be high stress, can be high anxiety, how to contend with those emotions. And we're going to introduce our guest today, Dr. Hall, to help us kind of talk through what that looks like. Dr. Hall is a multi-time author, business psychologist, executive coach, and a self-professed neuro nerd, which we get into on occasion in regards to what that means. But how are you doing today, Dr. Hall?
I'm doing well. Very, very grateful to be here with you today, Jared.
Yeah, we really appreciate this because this aspect of our business can be very trying, and sometimes it catches us out of left field. Sometimes we kind of see it coming on, and just this process, paperwork, the process, homes, all that, can make sense certainly over time, but understanding our clients' emotions is probably the most complicated portion of what we do. So we appreciate it.
Oh, glad to be here. And realtors aren't alone. I just had a conversation today with an accountant and an attorney, and both said that much of their job is managing their clients' emotions. So anytime it's a high stakes situation, and taxes and law are very often high stakes
Yeah.
situations. Purchasing purchasing a home is a high stakes situation. Emotions can run high.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's cover just a couple of housekeeping items real quick here. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Jared Lee. I'm the associate broker and team lead at My Home Connection. Our sponsor for today is the perfect real estate business. We spent the last couple of decades plus, what I consider reinventing real estate. It's changing drastically, has changed drastically, and is changing even more drastically as time goes by. So we've implemented a lot of tools and techniques to stay current and even move ahead of where the industry is going. In large part, partnering with Dr. Hall on the business and life coaching side of things, and as well as mentoring and training, and then other things that we see coming online with lead generation and things like that. So, with that, let's bring Dr. Hall back on and kind of chat about following up on one of our prior podcasts about, let me make sure I get my notes here, but resonant leadership. We talked about that really we've kind of got to first understand how we think and what our emotions are before we can really help others contend with those. And I don't want to rehash all that, but I think it's fair to say, re-emphasize the importance of that. So if you can just kind of encapsulate everything real quick, and then
Yeah,
we can.
yeah. I mean, one of the most important parts of education is repetition. So in terms of becoming a better leader, the first task is becoming self-aware. That's monitoring what's going on in your thoughts and monitoring your emotions. The second is managing those thoughts and emotions. The most reliable way to manage unpleasant or unproductive emotions is to manage the unproductive thoughts that lead there. The next thing is to be able to monitor other people's thoughts and emotions. So human beings are designed to be able to be be attentive to and aware of what is happening in other people in terms of their thoughts and emotions. We can we can become more accurate guessers. No one is a mind reader, but we can become more accurate guessers, and that's empathy. And then the last is being able to manage other people's unpleasant emotions and unproductive thoughts. And someone who's able to do that is resonant in terms of they're in the same rhythm as the other person, and then they're able to draw them to a better way of thinking and a better way of feeling.
Now, again, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I think there was a critical component, and the antithesis of being resonant is dissonant.
It's
And,
dissonant. Yeah.
and it's that person that doesn't listen, always says the wrong thing at the wrong time, and is not helpful to the process. And clearly, in our line of work, that'd be the last thing we would want to do is to become adversarial or combative, with our clients, or not make them feel like their issues, concerns are being heard. So, our objective is very well understand your emotions and contend with them such that you can spend that much more time helping others understand and contending with theirs.
Yeah, if you're internally a hot mess, you don't have enough resources left over to monitor and manage other people's emotions. So to become self-possessed or self-contained, or to have poise, to have balance, those are necessary ingredients before you can become a resonant leader.
Yeah, love it. Well, the way I thought we would kind of map out the conversation for today is a little bit sequential, a little chronological in the process of when we engage with clients. For example, there are clients that we don't want or shouldn't work with because they're not a good fit. So, I think if we're honest, some agents assume we can work with and should work with everybody. I don't subscribe to that. I think we should walk in a little more cautiously. For example, I literally had a prospective or potential client tell me not only is she a diva, like one of the first things out of her mouth is she's a diva. I'm like, okay, I'm taking data points here. And that the last house that they bought, their agent just ghosted them about 3/4 of the way through the transaction, literally just went MIA. Like, I'm not contending with these folks anymore. So that's kind of on the extreme. And I just kind of, gracefully bowed out of that interaction because I didn't see that ending well. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm not really knowledgeable about this author's work, but I believe it's Maya Angelou who said, if people tell you who they are, believe them. And she certainly told you who she was. I coined a term called a tornado magnet. And anyone can get hit by a disaster. Anyone can get hit by a tornado. But if you keep getting hit by tornadoes, if you keep having relationship disaster after relationship disaster, you are inviting it. You are a tornado magnet. And so anybody who says, that they're a diva is telling you, I attract chaos. Bring it on. And if you like that, if you groove with that, that's your client. Go for it. If that's fun for you, if you find entertainment value or challenge, and that's what you want, sign up. That's not for me.
I was going to say I'm not in that camp either.
Right. But someone is really going to connect with her and really going to be the right realtor for her. Mm-hmm. Not for you, not for me. And rather, I use the term tornado magnet, but that doesn't mean the person has to be a tornado magnet. You need to know, is this a person who's your style, your speed? Mm-hmm. And a really famous, an example I use a lot is a musical example. I'm sad that he died young, but Prince was a phenomenal musician. Mm-hmm. Not my style of music, but there's no doubt he was a phenomenal musician. What many people don't know is that for a brief period of time, he opened for the Rolling Stones. Mm. So he had all the talent, but he had his style. Well, he had things thrown at him on the stage, booed off the stage.
Wasn't a good fit.
He wasn't a good fit. Great musician, super talented, but he was not a good fit for the Rolling Stones audience. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, the Stones thought he was awesome, right? Because
he's talented.
Because he's talented, and they've always had really wide musical tastes, and so they saw his talent. But the audience did not. So you got to figure out, okay, is this the audience who's going to groove with the music that I'm playing? And if they're not, then find a different audience.
Yeah, and one of the other ones that we see quite often in our industry is, almost everybody, if they're honest, wants to chase the $1 million, $2 million, $3 million plus, listing or buy. And, because of the commission usually associated to that. And what I would say is, you've got to understand the person you're going to be working with. what their expectations are. You better know your stuff. You better, probably not be in a hurry. They're very discerning. They're very critical. They can be very critical. They high expectations, and this is not likely going to move very fast, and they've got a lot of resources to take their time, and just know what you're going in, and don't be short-minded looking at one aspect of the transaction.
Right. That if you're inexperienced, it can be really heady to have the opportunity to get a large dollar commission, and you start thinking about the money and not about how do I serve these people the best, and what do I need to learn about this particular audience. So you have to learn who your audience is, even if they are really attractive. And maybe you've seen this, Jared, is that people start with smaller homes as realtors, and they work their way up and up because through their experience, they learn to solve a larger variety of problems, so that when a complicated home sale, when a buyer with a sophisticated background in terms, not that they like opera, but they understand buying and selling homes, and they understand the process quite well. You really need to be on your game.
Yeah, and their expectations of that commensurate commission is these. You better know your stuff.
The level of service needs to be really, really high.
Yeah, and if you don't know what's in a high-end home, or some of the more sophisticated financing options, or how they live their life, how they communicate, like you said, heady. I kind of like that word. It's just there's a lot there, and that's what we teach and preach is serve your client, and the best way to serve them is to understand who they are, where they're at, what they're trying to accomplish, and are you there with them? Can you meet them there?
Yeah, there's an old proverb. This is "Dance with the one who brung you." Have you heard that?
I have.
And
Love
it goes back to the time of dances when whoever your date was, they brought you to the dance, but they may not be the most attractive person at the dance. So, she gets to the dance and she's the most beautiful person there, and everybody wants to dance with her. But the guy who brought her, is sitting in the corner. Well, she needs to dance with the one who brung her. So be appreciative of your customer, of your client, no matter how much money they're bringing to the table, because they're the one who brung you to this deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been smart about who we're working with, who our clients are. And now we're engaged in some of the area of the process, whether it's buying or selling. What would be your recommendation of things? Well, actually, let me back up just a little bit. I'm sorry.
Sure.
One of the things you'd like me to, I'm going to butcher this, so you're going to have to kind of clean it up for me, I'm sure. But that is, people, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing, they were so sweet last week. What the heck happened? So there's this ability for people to shoot off on different tangents that might catch you off guard. So kind of, why does that happen? And then, so what to look for during the process?
Well, I hear so many people when they meet somebody in a tension-free environment, they think they know them. And then when you put them under pressure, they behave a little bit differently. And then people use this word, which is completely inaccurate. They say they're schizophrenic, which they're not. I mean, they're not. People should stop misusing that word that way. But people do change under pressure. And so if a person behaves differently, a wise consultant will try to figure out what has changed in their internal state so that I am now seeing this behavioral difference. And you can guess, and if you have good empathy, you're probably a pretty good guesser, but there's a way that you can probably be sure, which is ask. And if you observe different behavior, say, hey, I'm observing something a little different than last week. What's going on? Has something changed that I'd like to know about so I can help.
Yeah. Yeah. On that front, I will say I see a lot of the honeymoon phase in my industry, or I hear about it, hey, they were so great at first, and now we're in the middle of this and they're MIA, or they take a long time to get with me. Like what I talked about when we started this is, let's make sure your clients are planning. Let's make sure that they're, excuse me on that. There we go. That they're, financed in a good plan, a loan program, and they put a lot of thought into this. But then communication, and even more communication. And to back off of that, especially when you're in the middle of it, is one of the worst things you can do. So I would say check yourself before you even ask, are you communicating at the level, that you accurately assessed your client needs? Because everybody's different, right?
Well, everybody's different, and people, depending on the level of anxiety a person experiences, that need changes. So I may be getting ahead of myself here, but under anxiety, there are a number of different ways that people will react, but going radio silent is one of those ways. That if a person feels overwhelmed and anxious, they'll very often go to what one researcher called learned helplessness. If they feel trapped and they don't, and they're afraid and they feel trapped, they will become paralyzed. And so that's one reason. Another reason is that they're like a fainting goat, that too much anxiety causes them to faint or collapse. And that's not literally fainting, though some people may literally faint. It really is it's a metaphor for that withdrawal. And there's a certain subset of the population, that's their stress response. So for that kind of person, gentle and judicious persistence in communication is good. Over communicating will draw them even further to withdrawal. So it really is testing the waters. Is this a person who's withdrawing because they have too much anxiety? Is this a person who's withdrawing because they got bad news from their loan, about their loan, and they don't want to tell you because they're embarrassed that they didn't get, they don't want to disappoint you, that their loan didn't go through, or if the house is a contingent sale, that their sale dropped through and they're going to have to tell you bad news. So there's embarrassment, there's fainting, there's feeling trapped and powerless. All of those can be explanations for going radio silent. So over communicating to those people in an overly aggressive way, it may seem assertive to you, it may seem persistent to you, but it may come across as really aggressive to this person. You're going to drive them away. So it really is about the empathy piece, recognizing where they are.
Yeah, I like that. And I've also over the years tried to couple of things. One is communicate how I communicate, so that they're not, I'm an over communicator. I'd rather overshare than people wonder, well, is there more to it or what's going on? And I'll set that expectation up front. Hey, sometimes you might have to say, I got it, because I want to make sure you get it.
Yeah.
And then the other is setting that safe place for however you want to behave in this transaction. Your pace is my pace.
That more. That's an important point. But explain to your listeners what you mean by that.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to understand something a little bit better, by all means, ask again. I'm okay with being asked 2, 3, 4 times. Hey, I'm available anytime. If for some reason you get my voicemail, it's simply because I'm in an appointment and I'll get back with you, so that they don't wonder what's going on, right? In my experience, not knowing something spins people up the quickest, even if it's not knowing what I'm doing.
And that is a reaction. That is an anxious reaction to uncertainty. And for some people, so I've just given you the reason people go radio silent. Some people, when they become anxious and they don't have control over what's happening, they'll pepper you with questions.
Yep.
And that's because they're seeking information to alleviate their anxiety, which is why if you're going to go on a picnic, you check the Weather Channel. Or if you're going to go on a trip, you check the Weather Channel. None of us control the weather, but we're seeking information that will help us predict what's going to happen.
Yeah, and the kind of setting the stage or what have you for me is sharing with them, hey, some of this information comes from other areas, other companies, other aspects of our industry. I'll tell you if I don't immediately have the answer. I think I have the answer, but I need to confirm, so that they never wonder that, do I have the answer? Are we going to get it soon? I'll tell them like, hey, I've got to reach out to the title company. They may, it's right about 5 o'clock. I might not hear anything today. Is that okay? That maybe it's tomorrow.
Yeah, you're doing what I call a preview of coming attraction.
Oh, there you go. I like that idea.
In advance, what they can expect to experience. Give them the preview of coming attractions. Then they'll go, oh, okay, I knew this was coming. This doesn't surprise me. It's like flying in an airplane. When the pilot says in advance, hey, we're going to hit a little bit of turbulence, they always say a little bit. They never say this is going to be awful.
Right.
They say a little bit of turbulence, and it should last about 20 minutes. As soon as people know, okay, this is going to last about 20 minutes, then the fearful flyers start the clocks. But if they don't get any pre-warning, then they become very anxious about, okay, the wings are going to fall off, or so, their brain goes in really bad places. So as a consultant to people who are buying houses, giving them a preview of what's going to happen, what the sequence is, what their expectation should be, they can then tell themselves and self-soothe. Oh, this is what my realtor told me was going to happen. It happened just the way he or she said it was going to happen. Okay, this is normal.
Yeah. Yeah, and we, in large part, with the perfect home buying process, we developed a podcast series to do that very thing. It sends out sequential information about the process, and they may or may not watch it, but it's one other avenue to kind of self-soothe. Like you can sit there and watch this, and there's a conversation going back and forth about the topic that you clicked on about that podcast. Oh, that's how that works. I asked Jared, and I feel bad because this will be the 4th time I've asked him, but let me go watch the podcast.
And every consultant, if you're a realtor, if you're a lawyer, if you're a physician, if you're an accountant, you really are an educator. You're teaching people about what the process is, what it should look like, what they should expect. So, and great education is repetition. It may be the 10,000th time you've told somebody, but it may only be the 4th time they've ever heard it.
Yeah. And even if they've heard it, it wasn't an application at that point. They're like, oh, I'll listen to that when it makes sense.
Yes.
So to assume that, hey, I told you, 2 weeks ago, that doesn't fly. You kind of have to, hey, do you remember, this topic?
Right. And the more emotionally activated a person is, the less well the part of their brain that understands and manages logical conversation, the less that's turned on.
Say that again, Roger. I'm sorry.
Well, so when we become emotionally activated, when we freak out,
okay, gotcha.
The part of our brain that can listen to a rational explanation, it isn't working.
Gotcha.
It's completely offline because our brains are designed to keep us alive with saber-toothed tigers. So we don't need to be thinking about geometry when there's a mountain lion chasing us. We need to be thinking about nothing except running. And the same is true when we're hit with a modern day circumstance about what's the sequence of a title search and what does title insurance cover? For first-time home buyers, it's a morass of confusing information. They're nervous. Like, am I making the biggest mistake of my life? they're not going to be able to hear all that. And they're
Right.
certainly not reading the fine print.
Right. Yeah, and I've had to, go back to, hey, remember we talked about this, like, what did you say, showcasing coming events?
Preview of coming attractions.
Excuse me. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Remember talked about this is going to come up, and we got to meet some timelines, and it could get, a little bit concerning or, frustrating. We're here. We're going to knock this down. We'll get past it, and then kind of go back to why are we here? What was our objective? Why did we start this whole process? And
We wanted a house.
yeah, you've got more children now, or children moved out of the house, or you had a death in the family, or whatever it is. There's a reason we're here, and for you to, like you said, freak out is not helpful. You're gonna.
Well, it's not helpful, but people do freak out, and so as every consultant has to learn how to do is how to manage those emotions to help people who are freaking out calm down. And the words calm down don't ever help.
Yeah, those are not the words you want to use. Yeah.
Right.
So you bring. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, go ahead. Ask the question.
Actually, that was one of my questions. Is quite often you do get the person like, I'm just done. Their knee jerk, reaction is I'm just done. It's like, well, to us, that means let's terminate the transaction. Clearly you can't jump to that conclusion. And I imagine it varies for everybody. My guess is you have to assess, is it time you need to give them, information you need to give them, reassurance you need to give them. So it's that being a resonant leader and understanding what's helpful to this person. What do I think would be the most helpful? And this person's reassurance, just letting them know we'll get through this and it'll be fine.
Well, I would argue, I would argue that time, information, and reassurance are all different versions of reassurance. And let me tell you why. The introvert needs to self-soothe. They need to go off on their own. If they get overwhelmed with too much data and information, they need to go off on their own to think it through. They need to calm down and think it through themselves. The more you chatter at them,
not helpful.
It only increases their anxiety. I'll work on reassurance next. The second one is where you act as the soothing agent for the other person. And it's very important that people know that soothing talk actually changes what happens in another person's brain. By talking in a soothing way, you're actually changing the way the brain is firing in that other person. You're calming them down. The words calm down don't work.
Right. It's the tone.
But it's absolutely the tone. You could be reading, from the dictionary. If you do it in a soothing way, that will change how they feel. Logical arguments are in fact emotional arguments. They're a way of soothing a person who is trying to avoid regret. People who seek tons and tons of information are really seeking to avoid buyer's remorse. So the more information you give them in a soothing way, the more data you give them in a soothing way, the more they're able to teach themselves, okay, I'm not likely to have regret over this decision.
I have seen agents almost become adversarial, though, with the client in that they are trying to reassure them, they are trying to provide them information, and they just need to understand now's not the time.
Yes.
They are perceiving that you're trying to convince them, and that's not the mode they want to be in.
No, because they'll view you as trying to sell them something that they don't need.
So it's a fine line, right?
Well, it really gets at your self-awareness. How desperately do you want this commission? And the less desperately you want the commission, the less attached to the outcome you are. The less attached to the outcome you are, the less likely it is that you're going to hard sell anybody and try to convince them.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
go ahead.
and that will help you to become a more empathetic consultant to your client.
Yeah, in our industry, if agents are honest, commission breath is a thing, and
Is that what it's called?
yeah, yeah. It's like you have commission breath. Calm down. So back to the resident leader thing. There's a stressful situation come up, and you begin to, as an agent, think about the things that are important to you. I've worked on this a lot. This is the fifth time that something dumb like this has come up because we didn't do the right thing, or whatever it is that's getting to you, frustration, annoyance, focus on your commission, whatever. That's you not paying attention to your client. That's them feeling like you're convincing them or selling them, of which is not helpful at all. So do you need to shut down, step away for a minute so that you can come back at this from a healthy place? Do you need to give your client some space to breathe for a minute, and then provide things in a informative, helpful way, not in a convincing or selling way?
Yeah. Human beings very often can convince themselves. And the harder we work at convincing somebody, persuading somebody, the less, in some cases, the less likely they are to really believe that this was a good idea. So giving information, just tell them the truth as best as you see it.
Yeah.
Without trying to close the deal, and saying, hey, we can keep looking. If this isn't the right place, or if this isn't working, we can step back and take another shot at it.
Yeah, I think that's the self-development is so, is so important to develop your understanding of your mind. You like what you described, putting that ladle in your stream of consciousness. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Because you have to be in that state for your client, where exactly what you just described. I'm providing facts. I'm putting information on the table so that we can mutually make a good decision here, and not at all making them feel like this is for you, about you as the agent, because that'll rub them wrong, very quickly.
Yeah. Who has the most skin in the game? Your client. Mm-hmm. And who has the most to lose? Your client.
Yeah, they don't care if you're going to lose your commission.
Your commission is a small percentage of the commitment, the financial commitment they're making over a long period of time.
Correct. Yeah.
And recognizing that you're just standing on the sidelines while they're playing the game. You're just trying to help them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're at the 30 minute mark. So usually we try to keep on track, and we'll get to the kind of the end of the process, and hopefully it's the successful. We helped you out. Everybody's happy. My approach is always, I'd love a hug at the closing table. That's kind of my evidence of a happy, client. So we hope that that's the outcome. But at what point would you say you need to figure out that this is not, or is it different for everybody that this is not working and not going to work?
You can only know that from experience. And if you're an inexperienced agent, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you'll say, oh, when I walk down that street, I stubbed my toe. When I walk down that other street, I hit my head. Okay, I'm not going to go down those streets anymore. So you can only learn those things through having these bad experiences. But it's important to memorialize those experiences, because you'll start collecting data about what makes for a bad client, a bad transaction. But when we all get, what do you call it? Deal breath?
Commission breath.
When you get commission breath, you start lying to yourself, like, oh, okay, this time it's going to be different, because this time, because there's more money on the table, I'm sure it'll be different this time. No, if they check all the boxes of danger signs for you in the past, you should look at it and go, okay, I'm not going to succeed with this one. I know this one won't work. And I've learned that myself. I've been a consultant for a long time, over 30 years, and I can still make mistakes, and I keep learning. I keep learning. Okay, I'm not doing that one again. That was a new mistake. Document it, memorialize it, and don't make it again.
Yeah, well, and I'd like to think, if you are hyper focused on self-development, even if you get to those and you can, like you said, kind of memorialize it, do postmortem, what happened and what can I do different in those situations to help those kind of people, then you can be like, okay, I'm not going to not work with those types of clients, but I'm going to do it. I got to do it differently, clearly for a better outcome.
Jared, you bring up a good point, which is, if from time A to time B you haven't changed, you're going to get the same result. But if you figured out how to change from time A to time B, you may get a different result with a similar client or a similar situation later if you've changed.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't changed, or if it really isn't about you, it really is about like a diva, then you just walk away.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, very good. So, one of the things we definitely want to do is, of course, thank you again for coming on the episode, but we want to share with everybody how to get a hold of you. And that's Dr. Hall. You have both .com and .net, correct, Dr. Hall?
They all .com, .net, .org. They all dump into .com.
Okay.
So drrogerhall.com, drrogerhall.com.
Excellent. So I've got your website up here. Obviously, you got access to your books and the different aspects of your business psychologist business. So people can feel free to learn more about you there. Oh, there's my screen share. Sorry about that. But really, if you want to know more about the Perfect Real Estate Business and how we bring all this together into helping you fine-tune the business that you want to develop as per kind of your needs, your objectives, what you're passionate about, we've put all this together to accomplish that very thing. So, but with that, Dr. Hall, again, we just want to thank you, and we'll look forward to hearing more in the next episode.
All right. Well, I'm grateful for the invitation, Jared, and I look forward to our next conversation.
All right, everybody, have a blessed one. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.